and welcome to the Power of Positive Teaching with SmartMusic. First off, I want to thank SmartMusic for inviting me to share this topic with you today that I'm quite passionate about, and thank each one of you for listening and signing up and being here today. I am extraordinarily grateful that you are choosing to spend the next hour with me. So just a little bit about myself to get started. I started positive psychology workshops late in my career as an elementary band director. And I was looking around at my school where I taught, and I noticed that so many of the teachers were depressed. This was before COVID. I can't even imagine what it's like working in a school right now. And my heart and thoughts go out to each one of you who are in the schools right now, because this is unprecedented. As they say, it's an unprecedented time. But I got into studying positive psychology and also teams and positive sports psychology, and saw that all of the lessons in those studies totally applied to music teaching. So I started making these workshops for teachers under a little company that I came up with called Teaching Positivity. And naturally in my workshops, SmartMusic would come in because I have always been a complete believer in SmartMusic. I signed up the second that I heard about it. I've been using it for many, many years. I can't imagine teaching music without it. And a lot of the lessons of positive psychology you could easily teach through SmartMusic. And so that's today's subject, is I'm going to show you what those lessons are and how you can use SmartMusic to teach those lessons. So I'm going to bring up my slideshow right now for you. So it is going to be called The Power of Positive Teaching with SmartMusic. And just a little bit about this business I told you that I came up with. It's called Teaching Positivity. I have a website called teachingpositivity.com, where you can find all sorts of materials that might be helpful for you in the classroom. A lot of the comics that I'm going to show you today are listed there. There's a practice record I've developed that's there, so you might find this resource helpful. And the theme of my workshops is always, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, which was first penned by Max Planck, who was a German physicist. And he was talking about it in regards to matter and physics. And if you started really looking deep into something, that it would actually change, like looking into an atom that you thought was completely solid. And then all of a sudden you see that the atom is really nothing but a bunch of air. Then there was a spiritual teacher and author motivational speaker called Wayne Dyer. And he also used this as his kind of mantra for his work. And about not really looking at physical matter, but as how we as human beings, how we look at the world determines the world that we see. And this is so true for teachers. It's so true in life. So that is also, I am borrowing from those guys. And then I'm going to start off with a little joke here for you that I have unfortunately been using this joke for a little too long. I'm hoping not to use this joke in 2023. But the devil whispered to all the 2022 teachers, "You're not strong enough to withstand the storm." And the teachers whispered back, "You apostrophe are." So God bless you all. Also, I like to always start by acknowledging that there is a place for negative thinking, and being a positive psychologist, a positive teaching advocate, does not mean that there's no place for the negative. There is great power in negative thinking. The Romans called it negative visualization, where if you envisioned all the things that could possibly go wrong, you would have planned to not have them go wrong. And then there is research done by Gabrielle Oettingen in her book, Rethinking Positive Thinking, where if you just think about something that you want to happen in your life, let's say you want a spouse, let's say you want to get married, and you just think about it. Oh yeah, my my Prince Charming is going to look like this and he's going to be awesome and everything is going to be wonderful about him. But if you don't make a plan for how you're going to achieve that goal or any goal that you've decided, it is actually worse off to have just visualized that than it was to have never visualized it at all. So visualizations without a plan, positive thinking without a plan, is worse off than not positive thinking at all. So today we're going to talk about what is positive psychology, in case some of you don't know, the power of optimism in teaching and in life, lessons we can learn from Shinichi Suzuki, the master violin teacher at the turn of the century, training grit with optimism, gratitude, growth mindset, and smart music, the Pygmalion effect, which is a wonderful study that every teacher should know about, how our labels can become self-fulfilling prophecies. We're going to talk about practice. I actually think music teachers don't actually talk about practice near enough. So we're going to just give you some ideas on how to talk about practice, and then just a few pearls of wisdom to end the day with. Okay, now we're going to talk about what positive psychology is. So positive psychology was a term that Martin Seligman, who is a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, he termed positive psychology in 1998 when he was the president of the American Psychological Association. And before that, he claimed that most of the psychological research was done on how you can cure people who are ill, how you can take the ill people and make them better. And there wasn't a lot of focus on what the healthy people were doing that made them flourish. So he started all sorts of studies to find out, what did the top 10% say of the happiest people in the world have in common? What would cultivate your happiness, your strengths, your self-esteem, and your optimism? And what correlations are there between all these people? So we're going to talk a little about that research that he's done. And in the meantime, this school of thought has just blossomed, and there are now tons and tons of research studies on what makes people happy. One of the first studies that they did was in 1995, and they called this the Sweet Treatment Study. They took a group of doctors, they split them in half, and each doctor in both groups were given a fictional patient, and they were given a list of ailments that this fictional patient had. And then they were asked to diagnose the patient. What do you think is wrong? Half of the people in the study, half of the doctors, were given a bag of candy to thank them for participating, and the other half were given nothing. The doctors who got the candy were 17% more accurate with their diagnosis. 17%. That's crazy. So one of the doctors, whose name is Dr. Alice Eisen, she described it this way: when people feel happy, that one of the doctors who did the study, not the doctors in the study, when people feel happy, they have better access to more varied material in their memory. They are more creative problem solvers because their minds are more alive and they are less easily confused. This right here is the reason that we need to keep our students happy, that we need to keep ourselves happy, because our brains and our students' brains will be more alive. They will be less easily confused. That's gold. They're not exactly sure why that happens, but it does happen. I was really motivated when I first started studying positive psychology by watching a TED Talk by this wonderful man, Sean Aker. And his talk is called The Happy Secret to Better Work. Once again, you can find, if you go to my website, you'll see a link to that TED Talk. 13 minutes that honestly changed my life. So what he says is, see, what we're finding is it's not necessarily the reality that shapes us, but the lens through which your brain views the world that shapes your reality. And if we can change the lens, not only can we change your happiness, we can change every single educational and business outcome at the same time. What I am challenging you to do is to change the lens through which you look at your life, through which you look at your students. And that will change our educational outcomes for the better. It's all about the lens, as Megan Trainor almost saying, not quite. So now we're going to talk about the lens with which I'd like you to look through or work towards looking through, and that is the lens of optimism. So there's a wonderful professor also at the University of Pennsylvania who was a student of Martin Seligman's. Her name is Angela Duckworth. She wrote this magnificent book called Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. God bless it. It was a New York Times bestseller, which I think is really, really cool. In it, she passionately decrees that grit trumps talent, that, people, if you are looking at measures of their talent versus measures of their grit, the people who are grittier are going to outperform. And she also has research that optimistic teachers outperform less optimistic ones, which I find really interesting. Once again, how can we look through a lens of optimism? So the way that you can change your lens and your students' lens is through growth mindset work, which we're going to look at a little bit, the belief that your students can change, the belief that your students will learn, that their brains will actually change depending on what you do. And very importantly, gratitude practice, cultivating gratitude for the fact that we have this amazing gift to reach these young students and to keep ourselves aware of that incredible gift that we have been given and be grateful. She also writes about, which I think is wonderful. She wrote me this email. I didn't put the date on it, but it was late in 21. She'll write you too. Just sign up for her email list. It's really an awesome. She sends you one email a week, I believe it is, and they're always really great. So in this email, she talks about a study of, it was 100,000 students, or was it 100,000 schools? Let me look this up. It was some amazing, it was 2 million students and 100,000 schools. And they did this meta-analysis of all this research to find out that as schools were trying to make up for pandemic losses, the students that did better were the ones that were encouraged to accelerate, to catch up to where they would have been had there been no COVID. Those students outperformed those where the other ones were treated with, you got broken by COVID, this, you don't know this, you don't do that. So here we're going to do some remediation. For the schools that went with we're just going to do 2 years worth of work in 1 year, let's go kids, rather than, okay, don't worry, we're going to fix you, you are broken, and we will fix you. The acceleration schools did much, much better. And in her article, in her email that she wrote to me personally, along with 100,000 other people, she wrote, don't panic if the young person in your life suffered setbacks during the pandemic. It doesn't mean they're broken. It means this year is a unique opportunity to cover more ground than ever. Do start this year looking for success stories. As veteran educator Ron Berger reminds us, the secret to motivating kids is to raise expectations and then provide the support needed to meet them. In a word and deed, you're going to tell your kids, I'm really excited for you. You're going to race ahead this year. You're going to learn more than you did last year, and you're going to feel so proud. And here, Angela signs all of her emails with grit and gratitude. With grit, the work, the idea that with hard work, you are going to succeed, and with gratitude. So I'm going to key in on a little part. It says, raise expectations and provide the support needed. This is where SmartMusic comes in. SmartMusic allows any child to have the support necessary to play almost anything because they can listen to it. They can use the incredible recordings that some of the SmartMusic accompaniments are absolutely gorgeous. The ones recorded by real bands. Oh my gosh, some of it is just beautiful. By clicking on the notes, the support that they need. Here's the note, here's the fingerings, here's the alternate fingerings. I love that. You can go through all the alternate fingerings on there. And How does it go? All right, I'm going to listen to it. Here it is. Here's my part. Here's the background. That is the support that we can't give our kids. We can't go in there and we can't spoon feed them all of these things, but smart music can. And if we use playlists, say, of all the materials that we're using for our kids and make those playlists available to every single kid in our class. You guys, you want to learn how to play this song? Yeah, okay, it's not right here, but here's how to do it. Here's how you can do it. And then teach them how to go in and chunk the little sections and learn it. I also was a huge YouTube, just, show them what it's supposed to sound like. Model, model, model. We learn best when we're stretched outside of our comfort zones, is basically what that research is saying. When you stretch us just a little bit, find that sweet spot to stretch a kid, and that's where they're going to learn the best. I'm going to encourage you during these 50 minutes here to dream big. If you set no limits, the kids will totally surprise you if you give them a model and if you give them the resources they need to succeed. So what I used to do with my kids is I write it all out on SmartMusic, and I have a little Halloween band here that I would write out. I wrote out Frankenstein, the old rock tune, just in unison tunes. And then I put in some challenges. And then I'd write out another part and I'd give that music to everybody. Everybody got to have that music. And I was shocked at how somebody who I thought could really only play the 3-note melody was able to play the challenges. Here's a little recording. You have to forgive me because it's honestly doesn't sound very good. This is a band of mostly 5th graders, and here's what they sounded like. So that is just a little bit of what I used to do that basically did that. I gave kids what they needed to succeed, and then I let them run with it, do whatever. I am a huge believer in doing the same music all the time, which Suzuki was also, which we're going to talk about that, because my kids, they'd start off with that little riff, and then they would hear the older kids play the little fancy stuff. And then if we do the same tune in the Halloween parade the next year, they can join on to the fancy stuff. So just, I'm also a big believer in funny posters in your room. I'm a big believer in not feeding kids candy all the time like those doctors got, because that really is not such a great idea. But instead of candy, I can give them jokes. I can just give them funny little things to put up in the classroom. These are all on my website too. You can put funny things and you can put inspirational things. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. Angela Duckworth, who we met in her Grit book, says if she could get one tattoo, this is what it would say. I just was judging a solo festival, and I saw this in the math room where I was sitting judging the festival. This teacher had the math joke of the week. Why do plants hate math? It gives them square roots. And then she also had the quote of the week: respect is earned, honesty is appreciated, trust is gained, loyalty is returned. How awesome is that? I actually used to have a joke of the week, and I'd put a little joke on my door, and as the kids came in, they'd get a new joke. But I like this even better. Math, a joke of the week and a quote of the week. As I mentioned in the fall 7 times, stand up 8, failure is an option. And you want to send those messages out to your kids that they can fail. Let them try, let them fail. The leader of IBM, Thomas Watson, advised the way to succeed is to double your failure rate. I saw this just in a picture of a Silicon Valley office. Failure is the only option. I thought that was really great. And put this up in your room, it'll confuse the heck out of your kids. And then talk to them about, if you don't fail, you didn't try, or it was way too easy for you. You should try something else. It's another little joke. If you fall, I'll be there, floor. And of course, there's always Bob Ross. Ever make mistakes in life? let's make them birds. Yeah, they're birds now. So create that culture that failure is really okay. We're going to talk about some lessons that I learned by dragging my poor little girl to Suzuki violin lessons from the age of 7 till about, I'd say, 15 or so. My girl, I am a band girl. So my girl did learn how to play trumpet and trombone, but I wanted her to learn. I started her on violin. And I have to, for selfish reasons, I wanted to see what the Suzuki method was all about. I was blown away by the Suzuki method. And I just want to share some of what I was blown away by. First, his writing, Suzuki's writing is incredible. He lived at the turn of the century, so it's a much older style of writing. And at the time, music students were picked by aptitude. Everyone wasn't taught music, but Suzuki believed that everybody could learn, that everyone could become, if not Mozart, they'd become pretty darn good. So he took everybody and taught them how to play the violin. He looked at them through a lens of optimism and gratitude. We're going to talk about that. And I truly believe he would totally be into positive psychology if he were alive today. He was an early positive psychologist. If you have never heard a group, I'm going to just play you this little clip of my daughter's early violin, Suzuki violin concert. She's in the back. That's her right there. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but that's her. And just give a listen here. This is the harder part that some of the kids are playing. I want to talk about what Suzuki felt about teaching. He wrote here, every child throughout Japan speaks Japanese. For me, that realization was the proverbial light on a moonless night. Rumor has it he had a bird that he taught to speak Japanese also. And he's saying, if I can teach this bird how to speak Japanese, if every child in Japan, not every child, but every child can learn how to speak. If they can speak Japanese, I can teach them how to play music. And that realization for him allowed him to believe that every single child could learn. He believed with all of his heart that everyone in front of him was going to be able to learn. And he writes here, all children without exception flourish in response to skillful teaching. They are born equipped with that potential. If they are born equipped to speak Japanese, they are born to be able to play music. He writes this, just a little more of his writing that's just so delicious. Humans do not live through wisdom. They live within the magnificent workings of life. And here he's starting to talk about gratitude. He is gratitude for the magnificent, he is grateful, for the magnificent workings of life. He's grateful to be able for the gift to teach these students. Here he writes in the second line here, if we adopt the innocent heart of a child, our lives based on a foundation of love will try to move towards the true, the good, and the beautiful. The workings of that life, or the force with which it endeavors to live, is far beyond human wisdom. Each and every person who becomes aware of this is compelled to esteem and value children, adults, and even himself more highly. Here, he is grateful for life. He is just simply grateful for life. There is another story about him where he apparently took in orphans at one point in his life, and he was struck by how the orphans who had had everything taken away from them had a joy of living. They had a life force that could not be squashed by the terrible circumstances of the war that had enveloped their parents. And he was really struck by how much they wanted to learn, by their energy, by their life. And that is a subject we don't talk about in education very much, but I believe that perhaps we should. We need to nurture that gratitude that we have this gift to work with these little, no matter how badly they might be acting at the moment, these little works of wonder and magic that are in front of us each day. Having that gratitude is going to change the lens through which we look at life. And it's going to change the lens with which we look at our kids, which is why I think Suzuki would have been a great positive psychologist. In the world of positive psychology, some of the standard treatments for gratitude, the classic one is you write three gratitudes a day. And in a study, I believe it was for 6 weeks. At the end of a 6-week period, the people who were in this study reported being 25% happier by just writing 3 gratitudes a day. And if they were 25% happier, their brains were 25% more alive, and they were better problem solvers, as the very first study that we talked about suggests. Just being happier makes our brains alive. There's a short form of this that you feel free to do this one. Be grateful for one thing each night. Just right when you go to bed, just think about one thing. Think about it nice and long and slow, and think about all the details of that one awesome thing, and you will be happier and have a different lens. Going on to actually how Dr. Suzuki actually did his music pedagogy. Not only did he believe that every child can be educated, and this was his motto, every child can, right there at the top. He believed every child has a potential to reach a high level of skill, as we talked about. If they could speak Japanese, they'd be able to do this. And here's how they did it. Daily practicing, repetition, and listening were the keys to a child's musical success. So let's talk about the specifics for how he did it. The first thing he did is he modeled in front of his kids. He would stand up, just like this picture shows, in front of his little group of wonderful little children and model for them, playing for them constantly, something that we have to do all the time. We need to talk less, we need to play more, which is what he did. We need to smile more. There's actually evidence that if people smile, just the physical act of smiling makes you happier, and smiling just makes you happier anyway, and it will make our kids happier. So, and Aaron Burr thinks that we should also smile more too. Talk less, smile more. So we need to talk less and play more. Okay, so this is Katy Perry's Roar, which I had for my kids. It provided a model of the melody, easy. It had a model of the harmony, of the accompaniment, of the tonal center, so that the kids could always hear how their part fit in. That was another secret that Suzuki had. He always accompanied his kids. During their group lessons, he hired a piano player who would sit, and sometimes when the piano player couldn't do it, when my daughter was taking Suzuki, I got to be the piano player. It was great fun, actually. And that model will just teach kids without you saying a word. Just like if a kid listened to a song on the radio 500 times, and all of a sudden they know every single part. Every single part. They can sing you the background, they can sing you they can do the rap if there's a rap. Just that model teaches them. So SmartMusic gives us a model, and I'm just going to play you a little bit of, this was Katy Perry's Roar. At the time, my kids, we were thinking of sending this to Katy Perry. We actually never did, but they came in on recess, and we played along. And I want you to notice that these are 5th and 6th, actually, I think these are 6th grade students, and they're playing some pretty darn awesome rhythms here. They're not going to play them perfectly, but they're really, really pretty darn good. And if I wanted to do a deep dive into how these rhythms went, I am off to a good start. So just give a listen here. So you've got an idea there of what how powerful that model was. That was a SmartMusic model that I used. Now, I could have also used a YouTube model. I could have used Katy Perry, but that visual in front is just a gold mine. It's just a gold mine. So here, I didn't, and I'm not showing you the videos. I've got videos of my kids doing this, but I don't have permission to show them. So here I'm going to play you. These are three little kids who came in. That other one was a lunchtime. I got most of my stuff done at lunch, at recess, quite frankly. The kids would come in and they would just drink in whatever I'd give them. So these are three kids from my jazz band who came in at recess, and they're playing Oye Como Va, the young band arrangement of Oye Como Va. And I just want you to hear how they're matching the style. And I could talk till I was blue in the face. And there's no way I could get kids to match the style like this. Just listening to my SmartMusic video did. I apologize a little in advance that I didn't tune the flute player before I made this video, but just give a listen here. Give a little listen to how the saxophone is playing with the solo in the recording. So you could hear, she actually, God bless her, she's playing perfectly in tune. And there's something about how these kids are playing. There's a style, there's a Latin style. There's the groove that they're feeling that I would not be able to, I would not put that in words. These kids were in 5th grade right here and just playing like a storm because of SmartMusic. So I always say, talk less, listen more, just listen, 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 which was the key to Suzuki's success too, is my daughter had to listen 3 times every single day to the recording of whatever song she was working on. 3 times every day. We would play it in the car. We'd play it now. And now on SmartMusic, Hilary Hahn is playing those recordings. Hilary Hahn, she's like amazing. And they're the most beautiful recordings. For you Suzuki, for you string teachers out there, oh my gosh, use this. And for everyone else, just so they could hear what beautiful, beautiful music sounds like. So now we're going to go in and we're going to talk about growth mindset, which certainly Suzuki didn't know about this term, but he knew that these brains could change. So I used to teach growth mindset with this: whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. A Henry Ford quote. I taught for the bulk of my career elementary kids, and quite frankly, this is a little over their heads. It takes about 15 minutes for them to understand what it is, and then they've got it, and then it's pretty cool. But when you only have a 30-minute lesson, you maybe can't spend 15 minutes on this saying. So I came up with a much easier way. If you just simply have this powerful yet sign, which you can get on my website, just put this up in your classroom. And when a kid says they can't do it, which is of course the bane of every music teacher's existence, you simply point to the sign and you say, yeah, just can't do it yet. And an end of discussion. And it's so fast and it's so easy. There's a lesson that you can show your kids. I won't play it for you here, but look this up, The Power of Yet, with Janelle Monáe and Elmo and the gang. And so now this all comes from Carol Dweck, who is kind of the queen of growth mindset research. She discovered that if just putting an hour intervention, is what psychologists would call it, of teaching kids bet your brains are malleable. Your brains can change. You can learn new skills. Just an hour intervention made, in this particular study, 7th graders improve their math skills. All sorts of studies showing that just an intervention of talking about the importance of growth mindset and how everybody can learn. You can do it. Your own intervention might include, this is a poster that I got from Mindset Works. Here's Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is muscles. Talk about the brain being the muscles. Talk about the myelin sheaths that are connecting all of our neurons. Show them a picture of, this is a brain at birth, and here, look at how your brain changes. It just changes. Describe to them how every repetition of any skill causes the connections between your neurons to be covered with this myelin sheath. And you're just simply, not only you're teaching them a little bit about their brains and myelin, but that they can visualize, yeah, your brain is going to actually change. And do some funny things. My colleague, Andrew Brunson, put Betty the Yeti up in the top of his smartboard. And I just want to tell you, this is a cute little story. This was in the New Yorker. And in 2014, they had just a funny thing that they did at the New Yorker Festival. And it was called Cats versus Dogs, the jury. And they had a judge, and then they had a jury. The jury was the audience at the festival, and they had to decide who was best, cats or dogs. Malcolm Gladwell was on Team Dog. And here's what he wrote, or what he said. And I tried finding a recording of this. I can't find it anymore, but I heard it at the time. Cats have a fixed mindset. They do not sniff for bombs because they fear that if they fail, their whole cattiness will be at risk. The fixed mindset, of course, is the opposite of the growth mindset. Dogs have no such fear as they happily run down the runway sniffing for bombs. So if you want to, use another funny way for kids to learn the difference between growth mindset and a fixed mindset, you can use the cats. This is my dog, Casey the Wonder Dog. I was going to have an inspirational calendar. I never actually made it, but that was the cover right there. Then I want to teach you about this crazy, crazy cool study that every single teacher needs to know about. It's called the Pygmalion effect. And I learned about this from a man called Trevor Reagan, who comes from the sports world, and he has all sorts of growth mindset materials, originally for sports people, but now for everybody. So he talks about a study called the Pygmalion effect. So the Pygmalion effect was a study done by a Harvard psychologist and researcher whose name was Robert Rosenthal. So Robert Rosenthal was studying rats. So he took a bunch of rats and he labeled half of his rats on their cage. He wrote smart. And then he labeled half of them dumb. But of course, they actually were randomly selected. He didn't know if the rats were smart or if the rats were dumb. He just randomly picked smart, dumb, smart, dumb. Then he invited his students to come in and take care of the rats. So students come in for a week and they take care of the rats. And then the students run the rats through mazes. The rats that were labeled smart ran faster than the rats that were labeled dumb. It was unbelievable. The people who took care of the rats also ran the experiment. And somehow their actions changed so that they took a little better care of the rats that were labeled smart. And this is just profound research. And at the end of this study, he publishes this research and he goes, imagine if this is happening to rats, what is happening to our students? So when he publishes this, a principal in, I think it was LA, let's see where that was, principal in California somewhere contacted him and he says, I have a school for you. If you want to graduate from rats to people, to students, come to my school and we'll run an experiment. So he did. So Robert Rosenthal comes to the school and the experiment he runs is he gives the whole middle school a test. The test, the kids don't know what the test is for. The kids are always taking tests, but the teachers know that this test is to label bloomers label people who are just, kind of sliding along and are really underperforming. So after the test, Robert Rosenthal gives 25 names to the school. These are your bloomers. However, the teachers do not know that he has simply he's picked 25 names out of a hat. The 25 names were randomly selected. So the teachers go through thinking that these 25 kids are the bloomers. And at the end of the year, they label the they see how the students achieved. And the kids who were labeled bloomers far outperformed their peers just by being labeled bloomers. And that was all there was. So this is astounding research, really, for teachers in what we label our kids. How we simply perceive our kids is going to make a difference in how we teach them. So there's a fabulous video, which is also on my website. I can't show you here, but I encourage you all. This one's about 16 minutes long. It introduces you to Robert Rosenthal. He's like this charming grandpa kind of guy. He's really amazing. So if we label in our heads that some of our kids are smart, some of them are dumb, that's what's going to happen. They're going to be smart and dumb. This research has been replicated in business, in prisons, in management. They've done many, many, many studies about this. What we can do with this research is, according to Trevor Reagan, who comes from the sports world, instead of saying I have great range and I'm not good at hitting a curveball, because apparently in the sports world, you really want to label what you're good at, what you're bad at. You want to say, I am a learner and I can get even better range and get better at hitting curveballs. So it's about the language that you use. You don't want to say, I'm not good at something, because then you will be not good at something. So Trevor Reagan asks Robert Rosenthal in this video, says, should we just have high expectations and assume that they will come true? Rosenthal says this is not really the best application of his research, because there's always going to be people who are better and worse, always. What you can do is apply equal opportunities. And this is once again where smart music comes in. Smart music is an equal opportunity. If you give access to a challenging piece that you don't think your kids are ready for, but you put it out there and say, hey, just in case you are ready for it, take a look at it, slow it down, make a loop, figure it out, and give them the resources that they need to succeed. So you can make playlists now on Smart Music that you can share with all your kids. They could just have all the music and just say, hey, just listen to it. If you want to fool around with it, go for it. You don't have to make an assignment. Don't make them feel bad if they're not doing it, but put it out there in case they do. Robert Rosenthal says the label we should use is learner. It's the best word ever. That's so awesome. So we're challenged to remind ourselves to constantly think optimistically about our students and kind of catch ourselves if we see ourselves voicing in our brains or out loud negative thoughts about our kids. Research also shows that teachers who have been taught about the Pygmalion effect are far more effective in the classroom. So you've just been taught, and you will have a great year ahead. And like Suzuki said, every child can learn. So coming back to our friend Suzuki, we're going to talk about the power of deliberate practice. Now, here's a nice, easy graphic to show kids what deliberate practice is. And I got this from the Smart Music blog, a wonderful author named Greg Goodhart. And the article is called The Neuroscience of Deliberate Practice. So the first step that you do is you have to do something. For our purposes, we're going to play something. Then we have to reflect on it, figure out what we did wrong, maybe get a teacher, maybe get Smart Music. And then we have to make a plan for how we're going to do it better. So that basically is deliberate practice in a nutshell. And why Smart Music is such a natural for this is it is truly, and I would say this, I am a Smart Music clinician now, but I was this passionate about Smart Music, and I have been for the last 30 years, because there is just nothing like this. The red and green notes are crazy cool. This kid right here did not carry the C sharp through the measure. So it's going to tell them right there that they played a C natural. That is like the craziest, coolest thing. And I know there's other programs now, out there, but none are, they're all trying to be smart music, honestly. None are quite as good at it. Now we're going to talk about practice records. To require a practice record or not to require a practice record? That is the question. The answer is that measuring does help us achieve our goals. If you wear a pedometer, you are likely to walk 1 mile more every day than someone who does not wear a pedometer. That's a lot of walking just from wearing a pedometer. So measuring does help us. It's annoying. Practice records are as annoying as all get-go. Having parents forge their signatures on them is really annoying. So I've come up with a new one. By checking this box, I verify that the above statements are true that I'm putting on my practice record. There is some research that by actually putting in that check, people are more likely to tell the truth. So I put that in. SmartMusic has this wonderful practice analysis where you can see how much the blue shows you how much a kid has explored, and the purple shows you how much time they spent on their assignments, which I think is great. I just want to show you, I have a child, a student who I still have, who seems to be obsessed with the song Sleigh Ride. He's obsessed with it. So one day I checked his practice analytics to see that he had opened Sleigh Ride 152 times. He'd opened the other Sleigh Ride I gave him, a harder version, and that was opened 90 times. And then you can see, Sleigh Ride was his assignment also. I had given him like a little part of it that you saw up there earlier. But then when I went to teach him piano, which I'm now teaching him piano, as soon as he got to the point where he could play Sleigh Ride, I gave him Sleigh Ride, and he can now play Sleigh Ride on the piano. It's just important information for us to know about our kids. It's really great. The science of habit formation. I've come up with the Just Show Up practice plan, which is based on research that says if you're going to form a habit, you want to do it every day. You don't want to miss 2 days in a row if you're really going to have a real good, solid habit for life. So never miss twice. And have the kids just simply check off on a practice habit tracker. Try to get them to do something every day, even if it's minuscule, even if it's a tiny, 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 tiny amount of practicing. They just want to get their horn out and play a note. These are just some fun comics. I don't want to practice. I want to skip ahead to the part where I'm awesome. Come on, Mike, how are you going to get anywhere with this thing if you don't practice? I do practice, Uncle Phil. I practice all the time. Okay, show me something you've practiced. Kids like that one. Then I just had some nice little other comics. Do or do not, there is no try. So this is my Just So Up practice record. You are welcome to have this on my website. What I've done is place a check on every day that you just show up. You just have to show up and practice for 2 minutes. And this is based on research by James Clear and the Atomic Habits, and a lot of research on small habits. Put 2 checks for 15 minutes or more, put 3 for 30. There's also a lot of research on celebrating kids, that celebration is where it's at if you want to reinforce a habit. And just putting a check on a practice log is a celebration. It is a celebration. It can help a kid feel better. Don't break the streak. Try not to miss 2 days in a row. You can also, if you'd like, next spring, take part in the Harry Chapin Practice-a-thon. I am the coordinator of this Practice-a-thon. We raise money for food banks across New York State. And now for Ukraine, we're raising money for, it's called the World Central Kitchen, that's providing meals to Ukraine. And actually, anytime there's a disaster, the World Central Kitchen goes out and provides meals. I love this quote by Aristotle: educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And we music teachers are in such a wonderful place to educate the heart. So I'm just going to end. I thank you for sticking with me this long. And I'm going to end with just a few pearls of wisdom I like to to let everybody know who has taken the time to come to my classes. When praising, mention the character strength that the student is exhibiting. Here, I'll show you, I have a student did 66 tries, God bless it, on a little thing that I had given them. And so my answer to her, "Well, awesome, 66 tries is very impressive. You have great strength of working hard." You know, I could have said perseverance, I could have said grit, but the kids in 6th grade, I just said working hard to let them know this is a strength. This is an awesome thing. She's probably a little irritated. She did it 66 times, but I'm going to let her know that that's really good. And that comment box that you have in SmartMusic and any way that you can connect with your kids is one of the most important things that you can do to succeed as a teacher. Connect with your kids. Lots of research on just little tiny micro moments of positive resonance, just looking a kid in the eye and say, "Oh my gosh, you're looking good today." It's like, or, you know, that, "I love the way you did that. I love something about you today." Let them know that. If a kid is nervous, or just actually teach this to everyone, replace "I am afraid" with "I am excited." There's research that simply changing the wording, "I am afraid," "I'm nervous," to "I am excited," it's the same physiological response. So if a kid just changes that wording, they could actually do a little bit better. I use this all the time and have find it really helpful, but it's really been researched to be quite helpful. Videotape yourself. James Froseth, excuse me, was a big believer. He was an older band guru guy, a big believer in videotaping yourself and then listening and being your own teacher. Trust yourself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string, says Ralph Waldo Emerson, which means many, many things. But it also means trust yourself. You know what good teaching looks like. And be your own guide, be your own teacher. Whatever you say, your students are going to repeat. So be really careful with what you say. Proverbs says we are snared by the words of our mouth. Once after a rehearsal, I must have let it slip that we did not sound very good in band rehearsal that day. So I'm walking out, and the kids are, "Oh my gosh, we really didn't sound good. We didn't sound good." I said, "Oh my God, I said that." It came out of my mouth. I must have let them know, rather than say, "Don't worry, guys. I know that with a week of practice, we're going to be fine. We're going to nail this section." Did I do that? No, I didn't. I let them know that they didn't sound good. I think there must be a music school someplace where musicians go to learn harmonies, counterpoint, and sarcasm. I believe there's no place for sarcasm. It might be funny. It might be awesome for some people, but it's going to hurt someone. And I would just suggest that you never do it. Try not to say it's hard. When you say it's hard, it becomes hard. If you don't say it's hard, they don't know. When I was teaching myself to go over the break on the clarinet, I was teaching myself. Nobody told me that the break was hard. I just thought my clarinet was a little broken on B's and C's. And then a week later, I all of a sudden my clarinet started working. So you want to try saying this skill takes time and practice to master. I now tell my kids going over the break takes about 2 weeks. Takes 2 weeks of practice. Marcel Moïse, a famous flutist and educator, said it is a question of time, patience, and intelligent work. Motivational charts work because it's all about celebration. We talked about that. The researcher's name is BJ Foggs, and he has really shown that that little dopamine release when something is celebrated causes people to repeat the habit or the behavior that you're looking for. Keep your classroom neat. If you like, you can read Marie Kondo's book. Keep it funny. Find what inspires you and put it up in your room. I already showed you this one. Here's just a few more that you can find on my website if you like them. I don't know. I used to put little instruments coming out of this little girl's mouth. Keep calm, return my pencils. When I did a practice-a-thon, one of my students wrote this one. We didn't hang it, thank goodness. But I did put it in the instrument room and laughed at it, and it made me smile every time I went back there. I love this one. The bass clef fall over, and now it's very sad. And I did not know that Abraham Lincoln actually played the trombone. Who knew? And then I want to leave you with this. Put your oxygen mask on first. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. I wish I had known this going through my teaching career. I served from an empty vessel. And I would like to encourage each one of you to recharge, tie your own shoelaces. Teachers are in the top 10 professions with the highest rates of depression, as are artists and musicians. So we have a double whammy here. Positive psychology tells us if we do want to nurture our own optimism and gratitude, if we want to change the lens that we look through, we can do so with things that have been proven with positive psychology. We talked about gratitude. Journaling's been proven to improve your outlook. Exercise has been proven to improve your outlook. Meditation has been proven to cure just about everything. Random acts of kindness brings us to a higher level where we're more apt to be kind and caring. This is just a little joke I like to end my slides with, because we do actually have the best jobs in the world. I'm going to end with this loving kindness meditation, which I am a huge fan of and has been researched to actually make people happier. It's an ancient meditation. Starts off, may you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you live with ease. And then you want to say it to someone in your life. May your loved one be safe. May your loved one be healthy. May your loved one be happy. May they live with ease. And then if you're doing the classic meditation, you would reach out to perhaps a challenging student, somebody with which you have a challenging relationship to. May they be safe. May they be healthy. May they be happy. May they live with ease. May our students be safe. May our students be healthy. May our students be happy. May all our students live with ease. And in the end, it's all about love. The Beatles had it right. Love for our profession, love for our students, love for ourselves. There's a beautiful David Brooks quotes, kids turn their heads towards love. They are like flowers in the sun. And I want to really thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope that you got something out of this hour. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions or any materials that you might like to get from me. Please check out my website. And one more time, a huge thank you to SmartMusic for sponsoring this time we had together. Thank you very much.